I have played more than 10 million hands of poker. Wait a second. You may be asking yourself, how is this even possible? The answer is I play online. The sheer amount of volume you get online is unlike live in so many ways. But here's the thing about playing online. One of the main factors that gives you such a rapid rate of improvement is not just the sheer volume, but it's the ability to track and record all your hands, do metadata research, and then study each and every one of the spots and leaks that you have in your game. And what do you need to do that? You need software. So in this video today, I'm going to break down the software that I use to gain an edge over my opponents so that you can do the same thing. Let's dive in. Links for all of these software are going to be in the description down below. Full transparency, I do get a small percentage if you sign up through my link, but it does not cost you anything. So please, if you're looking at getting any of these softwares, definitely use the links down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's dive in. So the first and most important software that you will use for poker is your tracking or database software. Now there's a few options on the market. What I personally use is DriveHUD 2, but I recently made the switch. Up until very recently, in the last 2 months or so, I was using Poker Tracker 4 and I had been using that for my entire career. But DriveHUD 2 has truly blown me away. With all of that being said, let's dive in to DriveHUD 2 so I can show you why DriveHUD 2 is so powerful and what made me, a professional online poker player, make the switch from Poker Tracker 4, the industry standard, over to DriveHUD 2. Let's dive in. All right, guys, so here we are inside of DriveHUD 2. Currently, I have one of my stabled players pulled up, as you can see up here. This is Davis, and he is one of my stabled players, as you can see here. We are currently looking at a total of 7,334 hands that he has played and won 1,747 over the course of those hands. Now, you're going to see a lot of information here, and DriveHUD 2 is capable of a lot. Primary focus is to track the hands you've played and then the ability to replay them later on and study your leaks. We're looking at his data by positions. You can see where he's won, where he's lost money based on his position, and then each of those, the different types of stats that he can have. You see up here, we can sort from big blind or dollars. If we want to look at the same chart, but in big blinds one instead of dollars, we can do that. I really don't use these other two lines. This line right here, this SD that you see here, this is money won at showdown. So let's remove that EV line, money won at showdown. And then this red line here is going to be money won not at showdown. So for hands that didn't go to showdown, what he's won there. And the green line is always going to be his actual money won or lost, or big blinds won or lost. The two that I look at here are going to be all in EV, which is AIEV, and net one. And so right now you can see over the course of these hands, he's running slightly above EV. Now EV is measured only all in because that's the only time it knows what the other people have and what you have. And so it's the only time it can effectively measure EV. So on hands where you're all in and it goes to showdown, his actual net one was 1823, but his all-in EV, if he run over the course of millions of hands, his EV in those same hands would be $1,155. So he's running slightly above EV in this case. Now, let's look at some of the other things that DriveHUD 2 can do, because it can do a lot. One of my if you're a tournament player, you can go over here, you can look at tournaments. I don't use tournaments, but this is the tournament page for it. R&D is massively important. This is something that I utilize a lot, especially for my stable. So let's talk about c-betting in single race pots, and let's turn population data on. What this will allow me to do is in different scenarios. So if you're playing on CoinPoker, or you're playing on Club GG, or you're playing on PokerStars, or wherever you're playing, the games are very different. And because they are so different, effectiveness of certain types of plays are going to be very different. And so what we do with this is this will allow us to go in and see, is a third pot size bet working better for c-betting? Is a half pot? Is a quarter pot? What is working well in that club or in that site or wherever you're playing? This is metadata and population research. And so we're not going to get into exactly how I go through this or the custom reporting that can be done. Just to understand that this page, if you can figure out how to use it correctly, understand and interpret the data correctly, this gives you a massive edge over everyone else or the meta that you are playing against. So if this has been helpful thus far, Please like, leave a comment if you have any questions, and subscribe. It truly helps me out, and I would greatly appreciate it. With that, let's dive back in. The next thing, let's go over to HUD, because this is the other most important feature of DriveHUD 2. So let's go to 7 max and let's use the Level X Poker main HUD here. So this is a custom HUD that I built out here. So all of this is custom. This is not something that anyone else besides myself and my staked players have access to. If you're interested, leave a comment. I'm actually considering releasing this for free so I could export it and have a downloadable file, which would give you access to the same HUD. So real quick, we're just going to go over the stats that I look at when I'm playing. This first thing is just the player name, right? And this pop-up that you see there, that's a custom pop-up that I built. All of these pop-ups are completely custom. They're not something that come with DriveHUD. Like if you look at the standard DriveHUD, would be this. This is what you get standard out of the box. And you'll see, like I use some of these elements, but it's not near as effective. But let's go back over to Level X Poker main HUD. So player name, and then this is the player snapshot. So it's all of the most critical information that I use when playing against a player. The next is going to be the total number of hands tracked and the amount that they've won or lost during that session. Because if you don't have enough hands with them, the HUD data is not really relevant. So if I see it's a new player, I've only played 300 hands with them, I'm not even going to look at the rest of the data because it doesn't actually mean anything. You'll see that these are colored. So like this HUD stat here is green. The reason is because in this example, like just for DriveHUD, it says it has 9.4 million hands. I don't know if I have 9.4 million. In fact, I know I don't have 9.4 million hands with another one person. The reason it's green is because in this stat, I have set it here. I'll show you. So for total hands for this one, if we go here, we right click and then we go over to color range, and it looks like it's getting cut off just a little, but you can still see everything. You can see if I've played less than 1,000 hands with them, it shows up as red. Less than 5,000 is kind of off red. 10,000 is where it starts to get okay. Anything over 20,000 is good. So, and then 50,000, like less than 50 or 50, more than 50, that's like the data is super accurate, right? And that's what we're really looking for. So the closer it is to this mark, the darker, like more highlighty green it's going to be. Now the same is true for all of these other stats. So let's go back over here. So next thing we have over here is their VPIP, which you can see is yellow, and the reason 36 is yellow. Now for a lot of people that would be red, but the HUD that I built this out for is specific for Club GG in these very soft games where they're VPIP required. So you do things like limp in early position right off the gate to boost your VPIP. So everyone's VPIP is a little more elevated. But normally 36% VPIP would be green. That's very, very high. But let's go back over there so you can see I've got VPIP, and then it shows the VPIP by position. So their VPIP in small blind, VPIP in big blind, early position, middle position, cutoff, button. Then beyond that, I've got the hand ranges that they play, range charts that they play in all of these positions. So it's very, very powerful. Next is their aggression factor, and then their fold to 3-bet. All again, color coordinated based on the more fishy it is, or the better for us that it is, the greener it is, and the worse for us it is, or the more solid or crusher that they are, the more red it is. So then we've got their 3 and 4-bet pop-up. This is just their 3-bet percent. The green numbers are 3-bet percent, but then I can go in here and I can look at each position. I can look at their fold to 3-bet, 4-bet percent, and then their fold to 4-bet percent. The next over here is just a straight up 4-bet percent, and then their straight up fold to 3-bet percent. Here I've got their post-flop pop-up, and then I've got their fold to C-bet, fold on the flop, fold on the turn, and fold on the river. So those are the stats that I use. You'll notice a couple other things here. Like if we go over here and we look at tags, so these are all custom tags. And then, for example, let's look at sticky fish is one of my favorites to see. So sticky fish, you can set all these parameters. So if they are VPIPing 35% or higher and they go to showdown 35% of the time or higher, this identifies them, and this tag, these don't all show up all the time. But if this requirement is met, then this blue sticky fish will pop up, and it will tell me right away that I know they play too many hands and they go to showdown too much. So that's what these are. So I have a bunch of those set up. And then the last thing is just the indicator of tilt. I don't really use it much. I've never seen it before up until DriveHUD. In theory, it's just supposed to be, the more likely they are to be on tilt by the results and things that they are, the way they're playing that specific in that one specific table on that specific session, the higher up that indicator scale. Next, let's move over here to apps, because the next thing I want to talk about within DriveHUD is twofold. Number one, apps here, and then installed apps. The first one is Player X-Ray. So if we launch this, what you'll notice is you can take notes, and I automate all my note-taking processes. And so I go through each of these different things and I set up the different parameters. And what happens is then when I'm playing, there's this little symbol over each player's HUD that if I hover over, it will list out all of the notes that I've automatically taken on them. And it will tell me different hands. Like let's say they limp re-raise very, very strong hands, right? Or they donk lead very, very weak hands. And then it will give me an example, like they donk lead on whatever the flop is with 7-deuce offsuit, for example, right? And so it automates all of that note-taking software. And that is called Player X-Ray. It's built by Ace Poker Solutions, which is the same people who built DriveHUD 2. Software number 2 is Asian Hand Converter. What is Asian Hand Converter? Asian Hand Converter has come around because of the explosion of these club games, things like Poker Bros, Club GG, PPP Poker, all of these poker apps. Well, these apps, the way they track their hand and do their hand history, as you may know, there's no way to export your hand histories from them. And this is a real problem for online poker professionals. Ace Poker Solutions, who also built DriveHUD 2, came out with Asian Hand Converter. And what it does is it takes those hands as they're being played in one of those clubs and converts them into a format that Poker Tracker 4, Hold'em Manager 3, or DriveHUD 2 can interpret and properly log into your database. And one of the benefits with DriveHUD 2 is that because it's built by the same company, Ace Poker Solutions, it actually allows you to do it right from within DriveHUD 2, which is beautiful. You don't have to open a second piece of software. It's built into DriveHUD 2. So let me show you exactly how to use Asian Hand Converter. And don't worry if you don't have DriveHUD 2, they do have a standalone version that will allow you to get it into Poker Tracker 4 or Hold'em Manager 3. So let's dive into Asian Hand Converter. All right, guys, as you can see, we are inside of DriveHUD 2 once again. The reason for this is Asian Hand Converter, while they do have a standalone app, like I said, also built into DriveHUD 2. So we're going to show you it from here, but it works the same way if you have the standalone app. You go back over here to apps, and then you go over to installed apps. You will see I've got 2 apps installed, one of them being Asian Hand Converter, right? So if we click on launch there, that is going to bring up a monthly payment. So I need to renew that soon, as you saw. But here's what this does. So if you want to play on these Poker King, Poker Bros, Club GG, Red Dragon, Expert, you can see them all. They're all right here. This is something that you would use to be able to track your hands. So I play on Club GG when I play on clubs most of the time. This is also how I do so many tables. This is how I can play 12 to 20 tables on Club GG. So let me show you. First thing we do, we go down here and we do Club GG. And the reason we do this is if we don't, Club GG has your like player ID. And if you don't use this, instead of being able to search by your player name, it's going to have you search. It's like you're not going to come up under your player name. It's only going to come up under player ID, which is why we check this little box here that says use player name instead. Now, another very cool feature is this, where launch Club GG, and then there's this slider that I can go up to 50. So I can create up to 50 instances of Club GG and have 50 different accounts. So let's say I want to launch multiple clubs, right? So let's say I want to play, you can play 4 per. So if I want to play 20 tables, I would launch 5 instances of Club GG. So if I go ahead and launch these clubs, we go here and you'll notice we can now go in to these clubs and I can open 4 tables on each of these different clubs. And they could be in different unions, different clubs, whatever. I can have 4 tables per Club GG instance. So that's how I play so many tables on Club GG. That's Asian Hand Converter. We're fucking powerful. And if you're playing on any of the club games, it is a must-have if you want to track your hands. And if you want to be a professional poker player, you should 100% be tracking your hands and you should be playing online. If you're playing on those clubs, you're going to need Asian Hand Converter. Even if you're not using DriveHUD, like I said, just Google search Asian Hand Converter and you will see the standalone application of that as well. The next software that I use is Jurojin. And Jurojin is designed to help poker players who do multi-tabling. I will play up to 20 tables at the same time, and something that is massively helpful and allows me to do this effectively and profitably is Jurojin. It magnetizes the tiling area and you can completely customize the way your tables tile. You can also do cascading instead of tiling if you prefer that, although I think you're crazy if you're one of those players. And one of the most important features of Jurojin, in my opinion, is the ability to use hotkeys across all of the different sites that you play on. This allows me to not have to manually click the bet button or to increase the bet size. I don't have to go and like press the little up arrow. Everything is done via hotkey on whatever table my mouse is hovering over. I have hotkeys for bet, for fold right on my mouse. If I want to, because most of the hands you're playing, you're going to fold. As long as my mouse is hovered over, I use a hotkey programmed on my mouse. It's just one of my side buttons on my mouse. All I do if I'm hovered over that table, I click that side button and it instantly folds the hand. Same thing is true for calling. I've got a hotkey on my mouse. If I want to call, I just click that. And then for all my betting, I have it set up on my keyboard to do the betting. So let's dive into Jurojin and how it can help you become more profitable and play more tables effectively and profitably. All right, guys. So here we are inside of Jurojin. This is the home screen of Jurojin. You'll see here, no, there's no streamers online. Normally there is. Whenever I'm streaming, it does automatically pop up there. So that's a cool feature. There's a couple things here. So first, let's go to site setup. So these are all the sites that are available to be used with Jurojin. Use Jurojin with any of these sites. Club GG, which is right here. We also use CoinPoker right here, but you can use any of these. One of the main features here is going to be this table layout. You can see how I have this configured. The reason it has this, your displays are different or whatever. The reason for that is because when I'm recording on YouTube, I have 5 monitors total. Usually you can see this preview right here. Or this like preview of this monitor right over there. Usually I have another one over here, but I disconnect that so the camera can sit where it is. But when I'm not changing my displays, that's not there. You can see on this layout, I have 10 tables down here, followed by 3 more tables on my second ultra wide. I have one 49-inch ultra wide down here. I have a 49-inch ultra wide here. I have a 4K vertical here, 4K vertical down here, and a 27-inch vertical down here. When you open each individual table on whatever site, and you can play on multiple sites at the same time, like I can have some on CoinPoker, some on Club GG, and it will all work the same way. If you open a table, whatever your slot number 1 is, which for me is this, it will open and magnetize and go right to that spot. Slot number 2, same thing. Slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6, slot 7, slot 8, so on and so forth. You can do as many tables as you want. So that's feature number 1 of Jurojin that I use. The other feature on Jurojin that I use all the time is over here, and this is the hotkeys. And I actually recently switched over from keyboard hotkeys got this little just standalone number pad. And so you can see here, so if I want to fold or check, right, on my mouse, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but my mouse, if I want to fold or check, I just touch this if I'm hovered over the table. If I want to call, I touch this other one. If I want to bet or raise, I hit the return key here. And then you'll notice here, I use divide, multiply, things like this instead of 1, 2, whatever, right? Because if I do want to manually type in an exact bet amount, I do it on the keypad. And so obviously I can't use the number 1 for any hotkey, otherwise the bet amount won't work. I can also increase bet amount by scrolling my mouse wheel. So this is highly effective if you're playing a shitload of tables. It's super, super nice to be able to, and across any, like the hotkeys are the same across any site that I play now, because I use this for the hotkeys instead of the site themselves. And so whether I'm playing on just GG or GG and CoinPoker or ACR, it doesn't matter. The other 2 features I use here, I don't use this that much. I do track it this way, but I also use just my Windows stopwatch. But this I use every single time I play. This is an RNG. And this, every 5 seconds, it updates from a number between anywhere. Could be 1, could be all the way to 100. And so if I want to make a frequency-based decision, let's say I'm going to be raising 20% of the time in that situation. And if I look down and I see this number is anywhere between 1 and 20, then I make that play. This I use every single time I play online poker, all the time. Those are the features of Jurojin, what I use it for. Again, it's down below if you want to use it. It does help me. It doesn't cost you anything else. And they do have a free trial. Actually, all of these have a free trial. So highly recommend use it. And use the link down below. Greatly appreciate it. Let's move on. All right, so next up, we've got GTO Wizard, which while technically is not a solver for poker, it is an amazing tool that allows anyone, even if you don't have a beast of a computer that's required of a solver like PyroSolver, GTO Wizard will do the job, and it does a very, very good job. So real quick, what is a solver? A solver is a piece of software that professional poker players use to help us find when we find leaks in our databases, and we want to figure out, okay, how can we improve these spots? We run those lines through a solver and it will output us algorithmically the best possible play in every scenario. Now, real quick, why I say that GTO Wizard is not actually a solver. The reason for this is because GTO Wizard, while they are using a solver on the back end, all of the solves are pre-solved. When you input the data into each of the decision points in the game tree, it is going to output it instantly. And the way it does that is it's already solved the most common spots and it's pulling that information from a database. There is a few drawbacks to this. Number one is when you already have a deep understanding of GTO and you want to expand and start using solvers to exploit your opponents, GTO Wizard isn't going to do a great job of that. And the reason for this is because you're not able to input every single piece of data into the decision tree. Here's what I mean. So GTO Wizard has a lot of information and absolutely start there. It's a great tool. But if you have already memorized all of the main lines in poker, you're playing, say you're playing a soft live game and the rake is higher than normal, but people are playing 80% of hands or VPIPing 80%, right? And you want to take that and you want to say, okay, I want to tell a solver that this is the exact range that this player is playing, right? So instead of playing what a GTO solver would tell them they should be playing, they're playing much, much wider, which is very common. Well, you can actually use GTO in these scenarios. With a thing like Pile Solver, you can go in and you can input the exact range of your opponents. You can input if they're like say they're opening to 5x the big blind, right? Well, that's not going to be something GTO Wizard is really capable of doing. But in a software like Pile Solver, you can input all of this and it will give you the optimal play even against non-optimal opponents. A couple of things. Pile Solver, first of all, it requires a ton of computing power. If you want to run any solves in any relatively short length of time, or if you're really into this, you can rent something like an Amazon web server and pay thousands a month for that, and then run your software remotely on Amazon web server and run your solves that way. But to do solves on the fly like that, and if you're going to be studying GTO deeply, you need to be able to solve them somewhat fast. If you're running it off a laptop and you're doing a complex solve, it might take 12 hours to complete, not with GTO Wizard. And GTO Wizard, by the way, guys, is really all you need to worry about unless you're already an absolute monster and crusher. Then fine, go look at Pile Solver. I love Pile Solver. Amazing tool. I'm not discounting Pile Solver. But for the vast majority of players, you don't need it. GTO Wizard is amazing. First of all, memorize everything that's in GTO Wizard, then we can talk. So let's dive into GTO Wizard and let's help you start crushing. All right, so here we are, guys, inside of GTO Wizard. It can do a lot of things. There's two primary things I'm going to focus on and touch on a third. The first thing we're going to touch on is this study. This is what your normal solver looks like, the trainer, and then also this hand analyzer, but we'll just touch on that briefly. That gets pretty in-depth. So the first one, the normal solver, what this looks like. So here is what a generic solver would look like, just like this. So the first thing you want to do when you're setting up your solve is you want to make sure you're changing the settings to be applicable to your game. So if you're playing 100 big blind poker, you want to switch stack size to 100. Actually, first, you want to solutions. Are you playing cash, MTTs, multi-table tournaments, spin and goes, heads up, sit and goes? What are you doing, right? And then the type. Are you playing classic? Are you playing shorthanded? If you're playing on CoinPoker, they have that. There's the ante-base, straddle plus ante, things like this. And then the number of players is 6 max, 8 max, 9 max, heads up. If you do an ante, they'll have 4 max and 7 max because this is built for CoinPoker specifically. So let's go back to classic and let's actually, you know what? Let's go to 9 max and let's do 200 big blinds and let's go live rake 10%. So I know a lot of you guys like playing live. Let's just do that. Even though this is software about online poker, just for the fun of it, let's do this. But again, the main thing here is you want to set these settings as close as you can, because again, you're not going to be able to get them perfect like you could in a software like Solver. But let's use this. So here you're going to see this is your range that in theory, under the gun, this is what you should be opening. All of the red is your opening. All of the blue, you're folding. You're under the gun +1. This is the range for open. Under the gun +2, so on and so forth, all the way down. Now, the next thing would be like, let's say under the gun folds. Let's say under the gun +1 opens. Now, let's say everyone else folds, you're on the button. So you get to the button, everyone else folded. This is where you're raising, right? The red is raised, the green is call. So these are frequency-based calls, except ace queen, that's 100% a call. Ace queen suited specifically, I should say. Ace queen off, you'll notice in theory, again, this is if the opponents are playing perfect ranges, but just in theory, this is a solver output, right? So let's just say that you have ace queen suited, for example. You call, say everyone else folds. So actually, guys, so here, this just popped up, right? This is a great example where GTO Wizard doesn't have an already solved spot. So we actually do need to pick a different format. So let's go to something that has a lot more solves. So let's go 6 max. Let's go stack size of 100, post flop included. Let's say opening size is GTO, 3-bet size is GTO, and let's say the rake is NL 500. Select that, and then let's do the same thing. Let's say under the gun opens, you're on the button, right? Okay, and let's say you have tens and you decide you want to just call, right? So you call and everyone else folds. Okay, so we go to a flop. And let's say the flop is queen. Bang, you hit your fucking 10 and it's rainbow, but it's connected with a straight. So under the gun now, let's say under the gun continue. Actually, let's check because they should be checking most of their range. Let's say they check. Now you on the button, in this case, you said we said you had pocket tens. So here we go. Looks like we're raising. So basically what you do here is you pull up one of your hands from GTO or from DriveHUD 2 or whatever your tracking software is, and you plug all in the information. It will tell you what you should do, where you made those. So that's the study portion. Let's go back over here to home. The next thing you can do is trainer. If you want to memorize different spots. So these are things that I set up for my students that are already drills that I already set up. So let's say we want to start training. We want to start memorizing. And so you're here. What do? Right? Okay, well, you open, right? And boom, it tells you, right? And over here, you'll see, so I did the right thing, right? Here you'll see what your GTO Wizard score is, or GTO score is close to how the computer would do it. This is how I recommend you memorize lines in GTO, at least the base lines where GTO Wizard is really, really fucking solid. So, and what you'll notice here, if we go back over here, you'll see the trainer stats. So out of 4,910 moves that we played on the trainer, our GTO Wizard score was 99%. So meaning of all of the moves and hands that we played through the trainer, we were 100% spot on. We were 99% spot on exactly what a computer. And this is all simply, guys, I preach this to my students. You've got to be able to memorize. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's not fun. But if you want to be a crusher, you got to fucking do it. The cool thing about memorization is once it's there, you're going to know it. Especially if you're playing every day, you're not going to forget it. So that's a trainer. The last thing we're going to touch on real quick is the analyzer, right? So if you go upload, now this is only include like the trainer and this hand analyzer thing are only included in the paid plans. The trainer, I think you get 10 free hands a day, but that's not enough to really do anything. I'm not going to upload anything right now, but let's look at some that I already uploaded. We've uploaded a total of 46K hands, does the same thing wrong, plays average EV loss. And then if we go back to here and we want to go to hands, we can look at all the specific hands. So this is the overall report that we built, frequency diff, all this kind of different stuff. So this is all the different hands. So if you want to like look at a hand, boom, it'll pop up and you can see where the EV loss happened, all that kind of stuff. If you want to switch it and you want to sort by biggest EV losses or least EV lost, which the least EV lost is always going to be 0. And the biggest EV losses are here. You can do all this. This is just for data analytics research and based on like how you're playing how close you are playing to GTO Wizard. Now, it is important to remember if you're using metadata and you're deviating from proper GTO to exploit a specific person or a specific meta, it may say it's an EV loss in terms of GTO specifically, but it doesn't mean it was the wrong way to play that hand in that specific circumstance. Something to keep in mind. With that is a GTO Wizard. Highly recommend it. Once you've mastered that, then go over and also use something like PioSolver, but that's way down the road. And even if you never use PioSolver, you can still absolutely demolish. If you're really trying to be elite, one of the best in the world, then you need to start using something like PioSolver. But it is definitely not a necessity to absolutely crush. Poker is still very alive and well, both online and live. It's very easy to win. It is not that difficult if you just stay disciplined. So guys, that is my full setup for online poker and how I crush and dominate my opponents. If that was helpful, again, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the felt. Good luck and go crush.